In 2018, Donald Trump signed an executive order on foreign interference in our elections. And Trump supporters are crossing their fingers, hopeful that something is going to come out. And within 45 days after an election, a report will be issued. And then some action could be taken within 45 days after that. Seems to be a whole lot of wishful thinking, to be completely honest. I know a lot of people don't want to see Trump leave office, and they really like the guy and think Biden is awful. And I agree. I just don't see this playing out the way they think it will. And ever since I've read this executive order, I've not seen what Trump could actually do with it in the event that he loses, but there was some kind of foreign interference. But things are getting spicy. There's good news and there's bad news. Catherine Herridge of CBS says Director of National Intelligence Ratcliffe confirms China election interference. But not just China. In this tweet, she appeared on CBS saying that there were reports. DNI Ratcliffe has told CBS News there was foreign election interference by China, Iran, and Russia in November of this year. More to come. Maybe this is the good news that Trump supporters need. Trump will enact this executive order. He will say, we found the interference. We found the manipulation. It was China. And dare I say, my friends, that is not fraud. You see, YouTube has said, if you claim two things, one, there's widespread fraud or error, and two, it changed the outcome, they will remove your content. But what do you call it when the manipulation of our election came from a foreign adversary? That's not fraud. That's interference, I guess, manipulation, but not fraud. So I wonder if you can say these two things, that there was widespread manipulation by China and it changed the outcome of the election. Perhaps. I don't know. I'm not going to mess around, though, and we'll just we'll leave it there. But here's the bad news. There's also more good news. Hold on. The Intel Community Assessment delayed amid dispute over whether China sought to influence the 2020 election. You see, now what we're hearing is that Trump's secret plan to use this executive order to try and retain control of the White House was thwarted by deep state adversaries and the national intelligence agencies blocking Ratcliffe from actually being able to issue his report in a timely manner so Trump could take action. And that's where we're at right now. While DNI Ratcliffe is saying there's foreign interference, they have not put out their report, and it may not actually come out until January. Now, here's where things kind of don't make sense. I mean, I don't see why that matters. People are saying it's not going to come out in the 45 days it needs to, therefore it's too late. The Electoral College has already voted, and their votes provided Joe Biden with a majority. So why would it matter if it came out now or it came out in early January? In fact, maybe if you want to just keep playing conspiratorial games, you can say it's all part of Trump's 4D chess. You see, they're actually waiting till just before the electoral vote count to drop this information so that people will object to the votes. Maybe. I just really don't think so. If Trump had a path to victory, I think he would have gone through the courts. It would have happened much sooner. And the longer this goes on, the less likely it is that, extremely unlikely that Trump pulls anything off. I mean, I was even talking to Alex Jones, who made that comment, and he's out rallying for Trump, saying, stop the steal. And he was like, Texas was really the last best effort to overturn this. And now we're talking about a super ridiculous Hail Mary, if anything. Yeah, maybe a 0.01% chance. But a lot of people, you got to pay attention to what's going on with this foreign interference, because it's not just what's happening with Ratcliffe. What if I were to tell you that while there is a dispute among the intelligence agencies as to whether or not there was manipulations of our election, and that Donald Trump is not going to be able to invoke this? What if I also told you the mainstream media is adamant we have just been hit by the largest widespread hack in our history? My friends, I give you from the New York Times, which is currently trending on Twitter. I was the Homeland Security Advisor to Trump. We're being hacked. The magnitude of this national security breach is hard to overstate. And they say that this hack, the SolarWinds hack, may have been going on for 6 months, and it affected everything, all these different agencies. Now, of course, many people might actually be saying, but Tim, look, they hacked the military and the Treasury and Commerce and all these departments. That's not how the vote happens. Okay. What about Dominion voting machines? What about Dominion voting machines? Take a look at this tweet. This is going around from from many Trump supporters of Code Monkey Z, who said, Dominion Voting Systems uses SolarWinds products and is still not powered down. Was Dominion Voting Systems a target? Was Dominion Voting Systems hacked? Those are questions, not statements. On the Dominion Voting website, you can see for their file sharing, there is the SolarWinds logo. That's legit. Now, Dominion has removed that from the website, and they say they've never used the Orion software from SolarWinds, which was the target of the hack. That's fantastic. Glad to hear it. Now let's get some investigators to go down to Dominion and actually check. That's it. I don't care what they say. This is circumstantial evidence that SolarWinds worldwide was being used in some capacity on Dominion, and maybe the specific tool set that was compromised was not used by Dominion. That's wonderful. It's amazing. We'd love some hard confirmation. We'd love Dominion to submit their files or for a forensic analysis on their machines to make sure they weren't victims. I don't see why that's controversial. That's the crazy thing to me. When we say, like, we want an investigation, make everyone feel better, and they say no, I'm like, what? Why would you block the investigation? Seriously. No one's going to leak any proprietary information or anything like that. Not to mention, I think Dominion, if you're going to be involved in our election systems, there's probably got to be some like open source programming on these machines. I'll tell you what, you want to do electronic tabulation, then all of the machines should be electronically displaying everything with cameras on them in real time, so everyone can just watch as the count goes in. Better yet, but then the problem is you got to connect it to the internet. So I think the best thing is probably just, paper ballots maybe. But this is leading to what the Daily Dot says, how the SolarWinds hack became the new focus of election fraud conspiracies. Listen, the media likes to play this game where they come out and they say, people are just saying, there's this, that, or this. What a conspiracy theory. Bro, you can't just say something is a conspiracy theory with no investigation. Ron is asking questions, not making assessments. He said, was the system targeted? Was it target? Was the system hacked? Those are very important questions considering we are being told this is the magnitude of this national security breach is hard to overstate. Okay, then let's not overstate it. Let's get to work and go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, including Dominion voting systems. And I'll tell you this, if you don't and you refuse, then what's to stop Trump from invoking his executive order or declaring an emergency and saying, here's an image of Dominion voting systems using SolarWinds. Here's the New York Times saying this is a massive, one of the biggest cybersecurity breaches ever. Regular people are going to be like, that's enough for me. That's it. That's the legitimacy Trump needs. That's it. You need to investigate this now and quash it if it's not true. You can't just put in an article and saying, but they denied it, so we're done. No, we don't take people's words for it. We say, okay, that's great. Thank you for your cooperation. Now, can we get a forensic analysis on your machine or machines or servers? It's the same thing with the voting machines. When Trump and his allies, and Trump supporters, Trump and his allies, when the Trump supporters say, like, we want an investigation, we want an analysis on these machines, the correct answer is only, okay. That's it. Why say no? Why block this? Why block any of it? That's crazy. It's because what we're really dealing with is not the truth, but legitimacy. A fight from the mainstream establishment and media organizations to maintain an image and evidence that comes out that may not even be definitive could still show, reasonable doubt, I suppose. Like this image from Dominion Voting Systems website. If you were to tell me, as the CEO of Dominion, we do not use SolarWinds. It's just we are not breached. Well, I have doubts about that statement because it's on your website, okay? Now, would you like to explain what you were using? And then would you like to prove it by perhaps showing us, a forensic image of your machines? Maybe allow someone to go and check? No one's going to leak your private information or anything like that. There's no reason to block this. More importantly, I think it should be a criminal investigation. Not that the Dominion or anybody did anything criminal. I'm saying we need subpoena power to go in and investigate this stuff. Well, let's do this. Let's jump over to what's going on with the DNI, right? So this is where it's interesting. Many people thought this was the report that was going to basically give Trump his secret weapon, but it's being blocked by the deep state. Fox News reports The 2020 intelligence community assessment focused on foreign election influence will be delayed, Fox News has learned, amid a dispute among senior intelligence analysts over whether China sought to influence the election. This afternoon, the DNI was notified by career intelligence officials that the intelligence community will not meet the December 18th deadline set by executive order and Congress to submit the IC's classified assessment on foreign threats to the 2020 U.S. election. Amanda Schach, Assistant DNI for Strategic Communications, said in a statement to Fox News. The IC has received relevant reporting since the election, and a number of agencies have not finished coordinating on the product. The DNI is committed to providing this report to our customers expeditiously. Customers? The report was expected to be released by Friday, but sources familiar told Fox News that there is a dispute within the intelligence community over what should be included in the 2020 ICA. Sources told Fox News the number of senior intelligence analysts are adamant that China sought to influence the 2020 presidential election, while a number of others are downplaying China's activities surrounding the election. And how much do you want to bet there's partisan lines between them? That the ones who are saying, no, not China, we don't care, that these are probably somewhat pro-Biden people. And the people saying, yes, China, probably somewhat pro-Trump. And I'm not saying that their assessment is motivated by their political tribe, but that their political tribe may be motivated by their assessment. If you are reading all of this stuff and you see that China is doing, you see this evidence of China, you say, wow, Trump was right. All of a sudden now you're probably going to agree with Trump. If you're reading and say, I don't know about this, doesn't make sense. No, Trump is wrong. You're probably going to agree with Biden. So correlation, causation, right? They say some analysts claim that China's efforts were minimal or only plans that ultimately were not acted upon, while others are arguing there is ample raw evidence about China's intentions and actions. Bloomberg first reported the dispute. When asked where Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe stands, a senior intelligence official told Fox News that, quote, all that Ratcliffe wants is for the intelligence to be reflected accurately and honestly with regard to China and everything else. An intelligence official with experience in analytic disputes told Fox News that, quote, proper analytic tradecraft would stipulate that when there are competing views like this, that both views should be captured in the report. Former acting DNI Richard Grinnell seemed to echo that sentiment on Wednesday, tweeting that Ratcliffe is, quote, standing up for career analysts who want their views to be accurately reflected. In other words, fighting to keep intelligence from being politicized. In October, Ratcliffe and FBI Director Christopher Wray warned that Russia and Iran were attempting to influence the 2020 election. Ratcliffe at the time said the intelligence community discovered interference from Iran, saying it was designed to incite social unrest and damage President Trump. These actions are desperate attempts by desperate adversaries, Ratcliffe said at the time, noting that intimidating emails were sent to Democrats in battleground states such as Florida, Arizona, and Pennsylvania appeared to be aimed at intimidating them into voting for President Trump. The emails falsely purported to be from the Proud Boys and warned that we will come after you if the recipients didn't vote to re-elect Trump. China was not mentioned during that briefing. So here's what they were saying early on. You had the DNI, you had high-ranking officials say Russia and Iran. We went through the whole Russia thing, sure, fine. We get a consensus that Russia's trying to interfere and that they did. Well, then I think Trump needs to invoke some kind of national security executive order or something like that, right? Because this is a story from the New York Times. This is from Thomas P. Bossert, who writes, at the worst possible time, when the U.S. is at its most vulnerable during a presidential transition and a devastating public health crisis, the networks of federal government and much of corporate America are compromised by a foreign nation. We need to understand the scale and significance of what is happening. Last week, the cybersecurity firm FireEye said it had been hacked and that its clients, which include the U.S. government, had been placed at risk. This week, we learned that SolarWinds, a publicly traded company that provides software to tens of thousands of government and corporate customers, was also hacked. The attackers gained access to SolarWinds software before updates of that software were made available to its customers. Unsuspecting customers then downloaded a corrupted version of that software, which included a hidden backdoor that gave hackers access to the victim's network. This is what is called a supply chain hack, meaning the pathway into the target networks relies on access to a supplier. Supply chain attacks require significant resources and sometimes years to execute. They are almost always the product of a nation state. Evidence in the SolarWinds attack points to the Russian intelligence agency known as the SVR, whose tradecraft is among the most advanced in the world. According to SolarWinds SEC filings, the malware was on the software from March to June. Whoa, wow. The number of organizations that downloaded the corrupted update could be as many as 18,000, which includes most federal government unclassified networks and more than 425 Fortune 500 companies. The magnitude of this ongoing attack is hard to overstate. The Russians had access to a considerable number of important and sensitive networks for 6 to 9 months. The Russian SVR will surely have used its access to further exploit and gain administrative control over the networks it considered priority targets. For those targets, the hackers will have long ago moved past their entry point, covered their tracks, and gained what experts call persistent access, meaning the ability to infiltrate and control networks in a way that is hard to detect or remove. Let me just break it down for you, put it simple. The door was left open. So basically, people all have this software, and they're waiting for an update. Guy knocks on the door, and he says, yo, it's FedEx. They open the door. I shouldn't drag FedEx into this. Delivery man says, hey, I got a package. People open the door, assuming it's a legit delivery man, take the package, and then as they turn around, dude puts a ruler in the door to jam it open. They walk away, not realizing the door has now been propped open. But that door can't be propped open forever. Eventually, somebody notices. They finally noticed, 8 months later? 10 months later? Wow. Yeah, eight or 9 months later. Well, once the door was propped open and that person walked away, they go inside and they walk over to a couple of the rooms and they unlock all the windows. Now you got to figure out which windows are unlocked, but you got a massive building with 100 floors and all of these different doors and windows and, there's transport to other buildings. Man, you got to track down every single hole. And worse still, this guy didn't just open all the windows. He went down into a couple of the basements and dug some holes, covered them up. How are you going to find those? That's basically what happened. So when they told us for 4 years that Russia did all of this stuff, okay, well, Donald Trump signed an executive order to deal with things like this because of Russian interference. Hey, look, our intelligence agency said it over and over again. Even Ratcliffe, even the people Trump put in are saying, yeah, we see Russia doing this stuff. Okay. Well, now we're being told that we don't even know the magnitude of this because they've gained persistent access. That's crazy. And they say that it's going to make it extremely difficult to get rid of that. Now that you understand they used the SolarWinds software, I throw it back to this Daily Dot article. The Dominion voting systems did use. Let me see if I can pull up this archive. They did use SolarWinds. Here's the Wayback Machine. This is DominionVoting.com. The subdomain is DVS file share, and we can see SolarWinds as listed on the Dominion voting website. Okay. Dominion says that's not true. That's wonderful. That's excellent. It kind of makes me feel a little bit better. I'd love to believe it. If they came out and said it was true, I'd be like more freaking out, right? So Dominion says, no, don't worry, not true. Good, great. That's fantastic, Dominion. Thank you so much for confirming that to us. The investigators will be there. Can you do tomorrow at 9 a.m. to grab a forensic image of all of your machines? And we'll probably need to confiscate some of those servers to make sure that they weren't compromised. But thank you for your statement. I don't care what he says. Okay, it may make me a little bit more comfortable knowing he didn't say yes. We use SolarWinds, but just coming out and being like, "Don't worry, it's fine." Nah, no, it isn't. But I'll tell you what, there's no political willpower at all. I don't know. Look, Christmas is around the corner. That's going to be a nice little day off. It just snowed. It was a big old nor'easter blizzard slammed into the East Coast. And the other day, we all ran outside and threw some old skateboard decks in the snow and tried riding them down the hill and falling down. It was fun. There's some things you can do to get your mind off of things. But while all of this is going down, this may be one of the most consequential periods in American history. We have a presidential election that is currently in dispute. I know the Electoral College cast their votes. The votes were for Joe Biden in the majority, over 270. But there's still going to be the January 6th vote count. That's when we officially determine the president-elect. I think it's very clearly Joe Biden, as I've been saying over and over again. But Trump is still disputing this, and you got 74 million Trump supporters who are not backing down. There is still a dispute over what's going on, and it's leading to chaos, clashes, and violence in the streets and things like that. So that's serious. We have this pandemic, this health crisis, and this massive lockdown, which has destroyed our economy. So presidential election in dispute, shuttered and destroyed economy, NYPD arresting people for serving them food. You hear about this? Some cops put on plain clothes, went and ordered food, and then arrested the guy when he served them. I'll tell you how crazy things are getting. And now we have what may be the most substantive, consequential hack in the history of our government. I know it's not it's easy to say when we haven't had cyber infrastructure, until the past couple of decades, but you know what I mean? Like, it's still significant. Our systems have been infiltrated to an extreme degree. And then we have this. Solar winds appearing on the Dominion website. This is probably one of the craziest periods of American history. And I tell you, I think we're resilient. I think we can survive. I think we'll get by. We'll figure it out. But I think we're going to see substantive changes to this country. Because I don't know if you saw that video. That astrology woman on Twitter who was like, Biden has the 7, House axis. He's going to win the presidency, all that stuff. She said there's going to be a fundamental change to the nature of rulership in this country. Not that I actually think she's right, but I do think it's kind of funny about what's going on. So maybe as Jupiter and Saturn are set to align on December 21st, isn't that the solstice? Isn't this crazy? And we just had a meteor shower, all of these celestial events. Oh, man. Crazy days indeed. Maybe something does happen. Maybe Trump says, I'm not leaving. That's what they're apparently reporting now, that Trump is saying he's not going to leave. What are they going to do? If Trump has loyalists who agree with him, imagine there's police who just agree with Trump. Or there's people in the White House who believe in Trump and will not. Look, if Trump puts Trump supporters, key loyalists in key positions, Trump will say, I refuse to leave. And they'll say, we agree. Legitimacy. Confidence. And do you think down the chain, the lower ranking National Guardsmen or police officers are going to do anything? No. If the people at the highest positions say outright, it is so, then the lower tier people just fall in line. And we've seen that. It's been proven to us. So I'll tell you this. When Governor Cuomo spits in your face and laughs and then instructs the police to arrest you for it, and they do, because they're oath breakers over in New York City, arresting small business owners for serving food, what do you think happens when Donald Trump says to them, arrest Joe Biden? Do you think they're going to be like, no? They're going to be like, I don't know, man. Look, I was just told by the president, I got to arrest this guy. So we'll see who has the political willpower. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm telling you, we're in the probably one. Look, you can't look at all of this and just think nothing's going to happen. Maybe, but I don't. I'm not saying what is going to happen is going to be Donald Trump staying in office, but something is going to break. Maybe it will be Trump just saying, look at this, Dominion used solar winds. Solar winds was hacked. It's Russia and China. Ratcliffe is saying that. And maybe that's all Trump needs. And maybe he can enact Presidential Directive 51, which is an old executive order. And maybe the American people will fall in line. Now, the resistance types, the Democrats, they claim to be the resistance, but they are the massive multinational corporations. Funny, right? They'll scream and they'll spit and they'll yowl. But I think across the country, you will have many military members being like, the president gave me an order, period. That's it. Doesn't matter. It won't. We'll see. Trump is saying, it's being reported that Trump is saying he won't leave, but a lot of Trump supporters are just going, come on, Trump's going to leave. That's so ridiculous. I'm not entirely convinced. There was a period where I thought that would be silly, but then I saw that these attorneys general in many different states, I'm sorry, not the attorney generals, the district attorneys are threatening Trump with criminal prosecution and imprisonment. So if Trump has no choice, because if he leaves office, they'll try to arrest him. Congratulations. You've made the choice for him. We'll see how it plays out. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.